The Hazy podcast is brought to you by EKtheDJ and Michael Reid. Join them each season as they discuss the adventures contained in various audiobooks. This season, they'll be providing reactionary commentary on the So I Got Hazed audiobook by Michael Reid. On last episode of So They Got Hazed,
the Hazy podcast was listening to boring stories from Michael Reid. I'm just kidding.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be reading these stories.
They're funny. The first one tonight is a little bit homoerotic, so I'm sure anybody I work with will be turning it off right away.
Let me put on my Barry White. This first story is called A Little Lick. Its characters are Avery and Farley. My fraternity never really made pledges do anything that compromised their sexuality, except for one thing. During Avery's and Farley's Hell Night, the brothers told Farley to pull his pants down. Then they poured sauerkraut down his ass crack. His ass was already covered in shit, and then it got mixed with sauerkraut.
Yeah, you're not reading this one sexy anymore, huh?
I can't, dude. I'm already like trying to hold back laughter. Then the brothers told Avery to lick the sauerkraut off of Farley's ass crack. Avery didn't even argue, which was insane. Avery knew his silk sig-H letters were only a few hours of hazing away. Avery crouched down to lick the sauerkraut out of Farley's ass crack. He stuck his tongue out and slowly moved it towards the ass crack. Just before his tongue touched Farley's salty, shitty, sauerkraut-filled ass crack, the brothers stopped him. It was a trick, albeit a very homoerotic one. Everyone in the boot room burst out laughing, calling Avery and Farley fags. They were told not to stand back up while various brothers screamed, "You're so gay," at the both of them. Avery, Farley, and the rest of their pledge class were initiated into the fraternity later that night. We would never forget how close Avery came to licking Farley's ass crack.
That's true. True, and that's disgusting.
So 20 years ago, it was okay to say these things.
You know what I was thinking about?
Now, not so much.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that while you were reading it. I'm like, this is what happened. This is what was said. This is like the mentality behind things. Go ahead.
Next episode. Next story. Cold with the flu.
Oh, we're just trying to glaze over this really fast.
Yep.
Okay,
gonna move on. Canceled. Characters for Cold with the Flu are Chippy, Corbin, Farley, Michelle, Squiz, and Tommy Too Fast. I miss him. During pledging, Farley's pledge class all got the flu. Most of them had over 100-degree fevers. It was about 1 a.m. Corbin, Farley, and Squiz got called over to the fraternity house for a little hazing. Chippy and Tommy Too Fast had been up for a few days on the cocaine-fueled binge. They decided that they wanted the pledges to take an ice bath, but there was only a stand-up shower in the house. To compensate, the brothers made the three pledges hold bags of ice while they stood under freezing cold shower water. When they were done getting their balls frozen off, they were sent to the barroom for more hazing. This is when Farley got saved. One of our sweethearts named Michelle came by and told the brothers she needed Farley to clean her house. Farley was saved by Michelle while his two pledge brothers had to stay. When I asked Farley about this story, he said, "When I left, I guess Corbin and Squiz ended up spooning on the barroom floor. I heard that they pissed on each other just to keep warm. One of the fraternity brothers named James came in and said, 'What the fuck are you two doing? Let me get you two some blankets.' Then he convinced Chippy and Tommy Too Fast to let the poor pledges go home." I wonder who that was.
Let's jump into the next story because it's the same thing, but what happened after?
Episode 43. Cuddle Buddies for Life. Characters: Brian, Chippy, Corbin, Farley, and Tommy. During the last few weeks of pledging, the pledge class of Fall 05 was hating life. It was sometime in November and it was cold outside. Our fraternity house had no shortage of broken windows, which didn't help to keep the house warm. The pledges had already finished a fraternity event, but for whatever reason, we kept them at the fraternity house. They must have fucked up or something during the week. They all had to have an ice shower because of the tub couldn't hold any water. If the tub could have held water, they would have had an ice bath. The guys had to hold bags of ice. In comparison to an ice bath, it wasn't horrible, but they thought it was the worst thing ever. The pledge class was sick with some sex flu, so it wasn't the best idea to be hazing them with cold temperatures.
I don't know if they really had a sex flu, but they all had the same thing, so it was kind of like coincidentally funny.
Sex flu. One of the sweethearts came over to the house and saved her favorite pledge, Stan Farley. She took him back to her house to have him clean. This left 2 pledges, Corbin and Brian Diggs. The 2 pledges were both sent to the dance room. They were in nothing but their boxers and their schmeg shoes, Chuck Taylors, still unable to fully dry off. When they finally got into the dance room, they were told to suck their thumbs. Chippy and Too Fast, the brothers hazing them, kept asking Corbin and Squiz if they were cold. When they said yes, the fraternity brothers laughed at them. They were both freezing and decided that they had to lay beside each other. They might as well hug to keep warm. So there they were, hugging and wet, wearing nothing but boxers and shoes in a cold fraternity house. When the homosexual undertones in the room couldn't get any more intense, Brian said, "I gotta fucking piss, bro." Corbin, not absent of his own piss stories, said, "Do it." Brian would never get the gayest, warmest moment of his life. When he gave me the quote to summarize the story, he said, "I thought I would get hypothermia if I didn't get pissed on." At that moment, Corbin and I clicked together. That was by far the most embarrassing moment in my life. So you couldn't be closer than someone than to piss on each other to keep warm.
And to be okay with it.
We just yep. We're just going to go through this. And we're gonna, yeah, it is what it is.
Yes.
You can find this story and more from the So They Got Hazed book. Available on Amazon now.
Oh, so the next one's Bourbon Challenge. I don't know if I've read this or not before, but here we go. For decades, 48 Bourbon Challenge. For decades, my fraternity had... What? 48. Go to 48.
I'm going. I found it.
Got it. Good. For decades, my fraternity had 2 time-honored traditions. The first was Hell Night. This is when a pledge becomes a newly initiated brother. The second was the Bourbon Challenge. The Bourbon Challenge came a semester after getting into the fraternity. This is when a newly initiated brother became a full-fledged brother. I wasn't even going to Radford at the time, and it was time for my Bourbon Challenge. I had left a year and a half earlier. One day I got a call, and I was asked to participate in the next Bourbon Challenge. I immediately left Virginia Beach, and 5 hours later I was in Radford, Virginia. It was great to be back with the boys. There was lots of new faces, and many of the old faces were gone. We set up that oh-so-familiar giant Rubbermaid container in the living room of our fraternity house. It was myself, Corbin, Farley, and Squiz. We each had a few bottles of bourbon that we were supposed to drink. There were 5 bottles between the 4 of us. We started pounding bourbon like champs, and the fraternity cheered us on the entire time. It didn't take long before I had to throw up. I stuck with our tradition, and I puked all over my brothers. I showered puke all over Farley's head, and the room exploded in cheers. The 4 of us got really into it after that. It was a pukey haze fest. When we were finally done with all the bottles, we smashed them into the container and hugged one another. We were all covered in one another's puke. Although it could be considered a silly tradition, it brought us all closer together. Most importantly, nobody was killed or hospitalized in the drinking of the bourbon.
Yeah. Puking is important. This way you don't die of alcohol poisoning.
Yes. Like, if you're going to get hazed or be hazed,
recognizing when you've had too much and you need to go upstream before you go to bed.
Yeah. Like, why not? Why not? Makes you feel like less of a shitbag the next day.
Yeah. Go
this
upstream,
next one,
have some water, you'll be fine.
This next one sort of hits home, literally. So we had talked...
51?
Yeah, we had talked a lot about... being hazed and tank wars on your Hell Night and how fun it was. So I thought tank wars was fun too. Enter the story, tank war chaos.
Was fun.
Yeah, you're not going to think it's as much fun after I read this.
Oh, jeez.
When I was 21, I stayed at my dad's house for a month in the summer. One night, he asked if I could babysit my 2 little sisters, 2 of their friends, and my little brother. The night I babysat, the kids and I had pizza dinner. After the dinner, My little sister Cecilia asked me to tell her some fraternity stories. My brain overflowed with stories, but most of that debauchery didn't need to be shared with children. I decided to tell the kids a funny, yet tame story. And if I've shared this one in a previous podcast, I don't even care because, like, this one is a great one. I don't think you have. My fraternity has a fun game that we play on our final night of pledging. The game is only for pledges and their big brother. The game is called Tank Wars. The object of the game is to shoot the other team's tank driver with flour. There are 2 roles in Tank Wars: the driver and the tank. The fraternity brother is the tank driver, and their little brother, the pledge, is the tank. The brother shoves flour into the pledge's mouth and then tells them when to spit it at the other team. The pledge is told to keep their eyes closed, and they're blindfolded as well to keep flour out of their eyes. After the pledge shoots the flour at the other team, their big brother would tell them to open up their mouth, then they would reload it with more ammo, and this goes on until one team shoots the other's tank driver. It's a lot of fun. When I finished telling them my story, my little sister Cecilia thought it was amazing. At the time, Cecilia was 12 or 13 years old, and she started begging to play the game. After not too long, she got the other kids amped up as well. So you can see where this is going, right?
I see no problem with it, as long as you did it outside.
Okay, so we did. Then they all wanted to play the game. A few minutes later, my little sister is sitting on my back while I'm shooting flour out of my mouth. The kids thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. It was harmless fun, and we all seemed to be having a good time. This is when Cecilia asked to be the tank, and we switched roles. I shoved a fistful of flour into her mouth, as one does in Tank Wars, but instead of holding it in her mouth, she inhaled it. She instantly freaked out, and she started coughing clouds of flour all over the back porch of my parents' house. I was a little bothered, but I knew she'd cough it all out. The lungs are very versatile. The problem was, Cecilia was a child and couldn't control herself. She started freaking out more and spun herself into a fit. I gave her water, but she didn't want it. It wasn't long before she started coughing up tiny spots of blood. She thought she was dying. To most children, the idea of coughing up blood means that your life is coming to a tragic end. The idea of death by flour was too much for her to handle, and she raced to the phone to call an ambulance. I took the phone away from her, and she freaked out even more. She started running around our dark neighborhood, screaming for help.
Oh my God.
So this has gone from a great babysitting experience to
a horrific story.
I might be going to jail. She ran to one of my neighbors' houses and up to the steps to their front door. Her intention was to start pounding on their door. By this time, her light sprint had pushed all of the flour out of her lungs, and she was breathing fine. I grabbed my sister and somehow calmed her down. I was lucky I stopped her because I was on probation at the time. I would have been in some serious trouble if the cops showed up for a child endangerment call. We went back to our house, and for the rest of the night, I anxiously waited for my dad to come home. When he got home, Cecilia told him everything that had happened. For the rest of the month, it didn't matter if I was home or not. Whenever my dad went out, he got the kids 2 babysitters. It was a babysitting team. This way there wouldn't be another flour incident. I'm still friends with those 2 girls on Facebook because I was like, I can never forget the fact that you 2 had to be forming a team to replace me as the flour starter.
That's so great.
Yeah. So, shout out to Cecilia.
Wow, dude.
Sorry I'm a terrible babysitter. Thanks for letting me put this in the book.
All right, 53. That's fucking great. Fireworks. Carl Kaiser, Nick, and Wes. Carl Kaiser, Nick, and Wes Smith lived together for a semester. They had an apartment near our fraternity house. It was in an apartment complex we always used as a shortcut when we were pledging. Nick had come across some waterproof fireworks in his travels. He was itching to use one. Like a dumbass, he lit a firework, threw it in his only toilet, and flushed it. The firework came back up after all the water had drained, and it exploded, blowing up his toilet. Porcelain flew all over the bathroom, and water flooded the bathroom floor. They had to turn off the water and call their landlord. In the end, they had to pay a plumber, buy a new toilet, and buy a new drainage system.
So if you can imagine this is like a terrifying thing to happen, right? Because you flush the toilet first and you throw the firework in, but the water goes down and the firework's floating on top. So then there's no water in the toilet and just the firework, and it just explodes.
It shatters the toilet.
Oh, good thing he didn't stick his hand in
Why
there.
would you do that in your own toilet, too?
Because you're an idiot.
All right, 55. I like how you give me all the filthy ones. People pissing on each other and calling each other gay.
I'm so sorry. You're going to get canceled and I will continue working.
I see what you've done. And you put me on video.
Yes.
All right. For an entire semester, Paul Knox had been working up the courage to ask out a banging brunette from his History 101 class. One of the guys in his fraternity told him, if you beat off before approaching a new girl, you'll be more relaxed. The day Paul decided to ask her out, he jerked off in the morning before his class. After the class adjourned, Paul approached the girl. He invited her to come to his fraternity party that night, and she agreed. He was so happy. After they finished talking, he walked away smiling. That night, she never showed. Paul never asked her why, and she didn't come to the party because he didn't want to seem aggressive. He later found out that when he had masturbated before the class, the tissue hadn't gotten it all. He had come all over the back of his shorts. The girl never showed up at the party because after Paul had invited her, he walked away with a cum streak down the back of his shorts. And when she saw this, she thought he was into some weird butt play or something else that she wasn't into. She avoided him like the plague for the rest of the semester. There's no way that any of this could be known for sure.
That's 100% true.
Confirmed from her?
Confirmed from her after the fact.
Oh, wow.
He later found out. And that was the missing fragment there. But I will say that his brother was right. If you jerk off before you talk to a girl, then you will seem more relaxed. It's just like if you have sex a lot, more women are attracted to you. One, because you're giving off pheromones like a motherfucker. But two, because you don't care. You just got some. So there's nothing like urging you to get more. So that nonchalant, cavalier, I don't give an F attitude is sort of attractive to some people. And it is a calming thing. Yeah, so I dig it too. Disrespectful tagging. Do you want to read it or do you want me to?
Either one.
You can read it.
All right. Disrespectful tagging. Characters. You, Corbin, Ron, and Tommy Too Fast. One weekend, I drove to Radford to visit my fraternity. My fraternity brother Ron was away that weekend and left me his room key so I could stay in his room. I brought a lot of blunts and cocaine with me. Now, if you didn't know, cocaine is a story starter. The first night I got there, I shared the cocaine with all of my fraternity brothers. We had an unbelievable night. The night led into the next morning, which led into the next afternoon and the next evening. By the second night, we had been up for more than 24 hours, and we were still partying hard. A memorable part of that night was when I went to get food on campus with one of my fraternity brothers, Corbin, because he had a meal card. I brought a red spray paint can with me, and on the way back, I tagged walls with Sig H. Oh, you idiot. By the time we got back to the fraternity house, I had tagged Sig H logos throughout the entirety of Radford.
It was like a little breadcrumb trail.
When we walked inside the house, Tommy Too Fast had gone coke crazy. He had blown even more of the cocaine, which was fine because I left it for him. And he had lost control when he was left by himself. When we walked into Ron's bedroom, Tommy was busy destroying Ron's computer. He had it in his hands and was smashing against the floor over and over again.
Like a fucking caveman. Like a fucking caveman. Just throwing it up and down.
I tried to calm him down and I said, "Whoa, bro, be easy." It couldn't get any better. It got worse. Corbin decided to join in and said, "Fuck Ron," and he horse kicked a hole in Ron's wood panel wall. When he did this, his shoe got stuck in the wall and we had to help him out. It was too late to stop either of them at this point, so I joined in. We all had a good laugh as we continued to vandalize Ron's bedroom. I spray painted on one of Ron's posters because I thought it wasn't a big deal. Then we spray painted on the wood panel walls of his bedroom for absolutely no reason at all. Now we had a destroyed bedroom. We had partied in the room and moved downstairs to host a huge party. Come Sunday morning, I'm lying in his bed recovering from a 30-plus hour coke binge. I managed to get 2 girls to stay the night, and they were passed out on either side of me. We had only made out after the drug-fueled night, nothing more. I think if we would have fucked, I would have had a heart attack.
That is also true.
Ron wasn't supposed to come back until Monday. I was leaving late Sunday, so our paths would never cross. Ron came home early, and there was nowhere to hide. The girls wouldn't wake up, and I could barely move when he walked into his room. When he saw how destroyed his room was, he was pissed. He asked why I'd spray painted on his favorite surfing poster. Cocaine was the only answer that came to mind. Since he was already mad, I took the opportunity to explain that I lost his room key and spray painted our fraternity's name all over the town. He exploded in rage, more so because he was the fraternity's president at the time, and he'd have to find all the tags and remove them. Ron said he'd never let me stay in his room again. This didn't end up being true, but he wasn't happy with me for weeks to follow this event.
I was staying in that room like a month and a half later. It didn't take long at all. I'm like, bro, how many times am I going to spray paint in your room? Come on, that was a one-time thing.
Come on. That's a one-time thing.
I'm not going to make a habit of it.
What are the odds that I'm going to do that again?
Yeah. Come on, it's going to be something new. And you only have so many computers that Tommy can break.
Wow.
So in our intro for season 2, we have a bird sitting on my shoulder, and that bird's name is Sunshine. And I don't know if I've told this story before, but I'll probably tell it like another 1,000 times in my life because it's hysterical. This one is called Sunshine Showers, Story 76. Lots of S's. Sunshine Showers, Story 76. One of our sweethearts named Michelle had a bird named Sunshine. Everyone, except for her, hated that damn bird. Her bird used to poop on everything in sight and was vicious when outside of its cage. And I know birds can't control their bowels, but this bird went out of its way to shit on the most important things. Michelle started dating a guy when she graduated, and one night they got wasted together. And I know this because I was banging Michelle's roommate at the time. When she was asleep, her date had to go to the bathroom. He opened up the bird cage and pissed in it. The bird started screaming at him, so he started peeing on the bird to shut it up. Michelle woke up to her bird getting a golden shower. She screamed out, "Sunshine!" She freaked out. She kicked her date out and spent the night trying to clean her bird's feathers. After that day, it became even more nefarious, but despite all its rage, it was still just a bird in a cage.
Well done.
Oh.
One last one.
Yeah. Do you want to pick one?
How about 69? Broken bike.
I was thinking 84.
84? A plastic dime. You and Brock. This next story is a cautionary tale. I was walking back to my house with Brock when he told me how he lost his virginity. He met a super hot girl for whatever reason that was into him. After a night of drinking, she took him back to her place. When she brought him into her room, there were plastic sheets on the bed. He thought to himself, this is weird. Maybe she's just a clean freak. They started making out and things got intense. When he thought they were about to start having sex, she stopped. She said, okay, the only way we're going to have sex is if you put this in your ass. She handed him a dildo.
Sorry.
Brock grabbed the dildo and thought about it. After examining it, he thought the dildo wasn't that big. He agreed to do it because the girl is so fucking hot. So there they are, fucking, and she says, when you're about to come, tell me, and come inside me. He starts going fucking wild, thinking he's gonna bust his load in this goddess of a woman. When he's about to come, he tells her. She pulls the dildo out of his ass. She comes, he comes, and he shits himself all over her sheets. Then she lays down on the shitty sheets beside him. He was in a state of shock. She turns to him and says, "That was great. You can stay if you want." Brock said, "I have to go to work in the morning," and left. Brock didn't have to work the next morning, but he did have an hour-long shower that night.
That's tough.
Jesus. Why do you make me do the gross ones?
Would you agree to let a girl do something like that to you if she was by far out of your league and you were in your 20s?
I don't know. Not a stranger.
Well, what do you think? It's going to be somebody you know? How many people do you know that are out of your league, in your zone, that are willing to torture you and then still talk to you on a daily basis like that?
First of all, no one's out of my league. I'm out of people's league.
Okay.
No one's out of my league. I'm awesome.
You are awesome.
And as soon as I meet Scarlett Johansson, she's going to figure that shit out.
You just got to like go to one of those deep fake sites and get that Scarlett Jo out of you.
I gotta go to a convention where she's doing something for the Avengers and be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Okay, last one.
Music stuff.
103.
103?
Yes, please.
Let's see here. 103. The Spectrum of Love. Bruce, Dustin, and Kevin. When Dustin Barnes pledged our fraternity, he and his pledge
but now it's too late.
Wait, what?
That's 104.
Oh, cheater. 102?
103. But now you've already started reading it. So you
Bowl
have
of
to
water.
read. No, you have to read them both.
No.
Yes. You picked that one, you have to read it. And guess what? It also has homosexual undertones. And I'm sorry if anybody's offended. Guess what? That happens when you put like 500 dudes together.
Story.
Yes. These things are natural.
It's a 20-year-old story about a boys club.
Yes.
There's a lot of gay jokes, and we're sorry.
Yes.
The Spectrum of Love. Characters: Bruce, Dustin, and Kevin. When Dustin Barnes pledged our fraternity, he and his pledge brother, Bruce Butler, became best friends. They did everything together and challenged one another to pledge harder. As the years passed by, they remained best friends and they were inseparable. After they graduated, they didn't talk as much because they moved away from one another. One night, one of my other fraternity brothers, named Kevin, and a few of his friends were bar hopping. They walked into a bar and Kevin saw Dustin kissing a guy. It wasn't like a small peck or an obnoxious cheek kiss. It was a full-on drunken chemistry. It was a lot for Kevin to take in because he had never known, nor would he have ever judged Dustin for being gay if he had known. Kevin immediately left the bar and tried to process what he had seen because he was pretty drunk himself. He had thought about how Bruce and Dustin were inseparable and that Bruce never knew Dustin liked men. He thought about how Dustin had sex with a sweetheart in our fraternity named Little Sheila. He thought about all the times they had hooked up with the same girls at parties. Then he thought about how much he loved Dustin as a brother and that he would do anything to protect him. Kevin didn't want Dustin to ever feel judged. He never told him what he saw at the bar that night. Instead, he kept what he saw to himself. He didn't want to hurt his brother's feelings. Well, that wasn't a negative story at all.
No. It was like, but still, it has those undertones.
It does have undertones. A Bowl of Water. Arya and Avery. My brother Avery texted me one day to tell me he had experienced a summer of love. His message said, "Hey Broseph, I've been plowing this gorgeous Indian girl named Arya over the summer in the Outer Banks." I told him I was happy for him. He sent me back this message. "It's crazy that you can go from banging a 140-pound bartender whose pussy's as loose as a bowl of water to a gorgeous Indian girl in the Outer Banks." Jesus.
That's a great place to stop, huh?
Yeah, let's stop there. Oh man.
You know, being around.
Bro, your stories are foul.
They are.
I'm glad there aren't any of those about me. You'd have to read the blue book for that.
That's true. That's true. And you know what? we're still going, baby.
We're still going. I don't know. I didn't get into any of the too gross stuff. All the stuff that I was about was the food.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wasn't about bodily fluid humor. Never was about anyone pissing on anyone or puking on anyone or shitting on anyone. I was
pissing and shitting, not for me, but I love watching people throw up. Even to this day, I still think it's one of the most hysterical things.
Seeing someone throw up makes me want to throw up.
Now, there's like different types. It would have to be like the drunk or drug-fueled type, not like the, oh, he's sick and is dying and that's why he's throwing up. It's he's throwing up because he made a poor decision tonight and decided to drink that entire bottle of Bacardi 151 after he ate cheesecake. And now we get to watch him throw up all the cheesecake. Like, things like that are hysterical to me.
That's fair.
I don't deal well with snot either. Snot is like the deal breaker for me.
Another one that'll make me sick.
Which is hysterical because, like, it's all connected. You can be dripping snot and saliva potentially out of your nose.
Stop. You're being gross. Stop.
Now we know where Eric's upper and outer limits are.
Enough.
Snot squared with other things. You have a kid. You've dealt with all of it.
I know. It doesn't mean I enjoy it.
That's
or
also true.
I want to talk about it.
That's what this podcast is.
Let me tell you. You want to hear a story? You want to hear a story about a pledge-worthy story?
Sure.
I wake up in the middle of the night because my kid is crying. He's crying because he's wet, and this is like infant stage, right? So, I wake up. It's dark. I don't turn the light on. I don't put my glasses on. I just pick him up out of the crib. I lay him down in the bed. I sit down in the bed. I'm sitting Indian style in the bed. And his feet are on top of my legs, and I've got him propped so he doesn't roll over. And I got the diaper, and I'm trying to change him in the dark. And as soon as I take the diaper off, he starts to piss, and he pisses like it just hits me right in the center of the chest, and I'm like, motherfucker! And I'm just like, it's too late.
You gotta just take it until it's done.
I can't put the new diaper and waste the new diaper. Like, I'll just, like, and he's already started pissing on my t-shirt. I'm just going to let him finish. And then when he's finished, I'll put the new diaper on him. And that was it. It was just pissed, hit me right in the chest. And it's like, all right, yep. Okay. And put him back to bed. Took the shirt off, threw it in the washer machine, turned it on, and went back to bed.
See, that's a funny piss story. There are funny stories that pertain to bodily fluids. It's when you can't avoid it and you don't want to be there. That's what makes it funny.
God, my son used to do blowout diapers too, man. Like, where he would poop and like it would be so much liquid mess that like it would come out the sides of the diaper, like
a squished burrito.
Fart. It would be like a fart and then just explode out the side. And
burrito butt.
If you weren't holding him, it was hilarious. Still sucked to clean up. It was funny as shit to see.
But if you were holding him, it was a holy hand grenade.
Oh man.
See, these are the podcasts that I love having.
Now he runs through the house and yells "stink bomb." He's 5. He yells awesome. "stink bomb" and runs from one room to another. And he does that because he's letting you know he farted and he's running away from the stink bomb.
That is amazing.
He's a stink 5-year-old boy. He's a crop duster.
Well, our stink bomb army, thank you for joining us again for another amazing episode of the Hazy Podcast.
Bye.
Bye.